So where exactly do you find Alf?
I think at this point you got to go on YouTube. I think
it's got to be on Amazon or iTunes or something.
Probably Amazon Prime. I think
you can buy the entire Alf.
I feel like if Alf was available on Amazon, Amazon would know me well enough to tell me this. I love Alf.
You're a known Alf fan?
Well, I mean, I've done multiple episodes on aliens, so of course I would love Alf.
I don't know. You never know.
Alf's a fun show. The one that you struggle to find is Police Squad, which was the brilliant forerunner to Naked Gun, and is incredibly funny television. And I don't think you can find it anywhere. Like a few people have bootlegged it up onto YouTube, but there's no actual collective canon for it that I can locate.
A lot of that stuff gets held up because of rights.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened to Kevin Smith. That's why you haven't been able to find Dogma for so long.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a fight about the rights. He didn't have the rights to let us see Dogma. So for like 20 years, you just couldn't find it unless it was like bootlegged on YouTube. He finally got the rights back. And so
he should go talk to the head of that studio and have him sort it out.
Well, I mean, it took 20 years, but.
No, in jail. Super Predator.
Oh, was that a Weinstein film?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Oh, no. All of Kevin Smith's canon. Like he was a Miramax guy and a Dimension guy, and that was the Weinstein brothers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I'm
think
excited
what
we get
killed off
Dogma back.
Mystery Science Theater 3000 back in the day before it made a comeback was just too successful. Because like Mystery Science Theater 3000, which is, again, brilliant television, those writers deserve they deserve Nobel Prizes because they basically pioneered a new art form, which does not happen very often. They're brilliant. Mary Jo Pehl is a goddamn saint and a national treasure. And they were taking these old B-level flicks from the 1950s and 1960s that nobody had seen or paid any attention to in 30 years and just making fun of them. And then the people who owned the rights went, hey, wait a minute, we want a cut of that. And they were like, well, this is parody. Like, we're making fun of it. And they were like, we're still going to take you to court. And it just became too expensive for them to do it. And then it went out for a while, and then it came back.
Yeah,
but
I guess
I don't like
stuff probably fell into public domain. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, that kind of comes to our modern world, which I think is less than it used to be. But there was a period of time where all of our culture was just kind of Pet Sematary reboots of things that we liked. And it's like, sometimes that is better.
Sometimes the original is better, though. Like, I wouldn't want a redo of Alf. Alf was perfection from the beginning. Just leave well enough alone. Like, same with like Back to the Future. Like, don't you dare.
No, Jen, what I would like? What I would like is a gritty, non-funny version of Alf. Like that's
that's what you would get.
That was Miami Vice, right? They did the Miami Vice movie was like super serious. It was just like an actual like Crockett and Tubbs are real hard-nosed detectives and not like 1980s keytar fluff.
Oh, okay. When you said Miami Vice, I'm like, what does that have to do with Alf?
Did they do that with I didn't see
probably aired
like
at the same time.
Probably.
Wasn't Archie the same thing? Is like Archie was this like horrible comic book you'd get at drugstores when I was a kid, and then it got rebooted as like a high school drama or something.
Yeah, but it was like bizarre. Like that was their whole thing was that they were just going to do like everything with it. So it just was like a total miasma of different genres, and it was just a super weird show.
Riverdale.
Yeah.
I actually watched it. It was meant to have hot teenagers have sex.
That was that whole network. That was like CW. CW's entire thing was like,
pretty much.
Would you like to see quote unquote teen, like mid-20s hard bodies rub on each other while they say they're in high school? And
then for us olds, they throw in like Dylan McKay from 90210. And I'm like, I'm in.
Heaton, I have something for you. And unfortunately, it comes after not only were you down here once in Austin, you then came down here to Austin again. Then I came up to DC. And unfortunately, what was
I've actually seen you more over the last month than I tended to when I was in Austin.
Exactly. What was supposed to be a Christmas present didn't show up in time. What was supposed to be a birthday present didn't show up in time, has finally showed up to Austin. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to get it to you. This idea came from a listener that you were out, as you are wont to do, amongst the foliage in in your scamp.
Arboreal environments, as is my
exactly, which is your thing to do. But you also are a natty dresser. You were somebody that always wears stuff, but you had a situation where it was the beginning of deer season. And many listeners were very scared for your safety because you like to go walking. And next thing you know, you're going to be singing.
If I get shot, it's going to be by a jealous lover, not a fucking hunter.
Exactly. One minute you're singing Man of La Mancha. Next thing you know, you catch a bullet that was meant for Bambi. So it was recommended, and I purchased it for you, that you're not going to have to sacrifice your style for safety now that you have a hunting orange fedora. So you will be able to go through the woods.
The other side.
You'll be able to go through the woods on deer season with your hunting orange fedora. You're going to be able to look at this on YouTube if you want to get a sense of it. But this is yours. This is your gift, Mr. Heaton.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. That hat looks amazing. That will be an incredible hunting cap for me. Also, in any other context, it looks like 68-year-old black guy hat, which is awesome.
Yes,
because black guys in America are the best dressed men in America.
What I would say you aspire to get to. Mm-hmm. Like you are climbing 100%. A hill for which the apex 100%. Is 68-year-old black guy.
100%. That is exactly where what I'm going to get is old black guy. They're the best dressed men in America. That hat is old black guy on the way to the barbershop he owns. That is a great phenomenon.
It is
also,
it is,
Justin. Yeah. That explains. You sent me my all-time favorite Justin text. And I've got many. There's I could make a coffee table book of good Justin texts. Out of the blue, around maybe December 15th, I just get a message from Justin, 7 a.m. that says what is your head size, period? This is a normal question that friends ask each other, period.
I didn't know there are head sizes. Do hats come in different sizes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Huh. Oh, yeah. No, you got some real domes out there. Yeah. You got some real satellite fuckers. Everybody that you know on television, in fact, broadcast television in general is sorted out by people with Easter Island heads, just huge heads, because you need it for when the camera comes on you. A, it reflects light better, and B, everything kind of looks weirdly smaller under studio lights and with makeup. So me, if I'm on television, either my hair is higher, so it looks like my head is a little elongated, or I look like a shrunken headed Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, the Howard Stern sidekick, not Michael Keaton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, I love the hat. Thank you, Justin. That's great.
Well, there we go. Yeah, that's why I was. That's why I was asking about your heads. That's why I was inquiring about your head size.
That's gonna look great too, because I got this new jacket. It's a tweed jacket that has these I think I wore it a couple of weeks ago. It's got these leather things up top, so it looks like a little. It looks like guy walking through field he owns castle type black jacket. But it's like a British hunting jacket, right? With that hat, man, am I gonna look outdoorsy and you're going to be safe. Cartoon character rich as fuck, which is what I'm going for.
You're going to be safe. And that's what we care the most about on
If somebody shoots me, it's because they'll want to kill me, not because they accidentally shoot me.
Well, if you didn't look like a tune come to life before, here we go.
I love that it's wide brimmed, so it looks like kind of Carmen Sandiego-y.
Yeah.
But for audio listeners, if you don't have a chance, if you're driving,
it's got a blue lining to it. Nice.
Yeah. And a bow tie.
Bright orange, blue trim around the brim of it, and then a cream colored band with a blue bow tie on the side.
It's also perfect heat and coloring, which is obnoxiously vaudeville. I like to have coloring. I'm pretty subdued today, but I like window pane blazers, bold window pane blazers that you're I have to look at that now. I like that.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of forcing you to pay attention to me that I enjoy.
I will also say that at some point we'll probably be taken up to Western New York for our intrepid editor, Will Saddleberg's impending nuptials. But if I ever get you guys out to Central New York, my old stomping grounds of Syracuse, those are the Syracuse colors, orange and blue, almost exactly. So that will be Heaton's attire for that as well.
I was thinking that hat could also work at a Broncos game. When we can kidnap him to his first football game, he'll be all set if we make it a Broncos.
Yeah.
I've been to a football game.
We're not talking soccer, you Brit.
No, he grew up in Oklahoma.
Hey, I don't call it soccer, you whore.
From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young.
I'm Jen Briney.
And from Washington, D.C.,
I'm Andrew Heaton.
Then we're not wrong. On this edition of the program, we'll be talking about the Colombian face-off over the weekend with Trump and their president, as well as why the Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively feud has leaked not only into pop culture, but also politics. That and your emails. Jen, how have you been?
I've been good.
Yeah.
Why are you asking me that?
Because we're doing a podcast where banter is a key tenet of it. See, now we have a conversation.
We spent
so the
30
audience
minutes talking about Heaton's hatware. Now we're going to focus on Jen for a minute.
Well, I mean, I'm suspicious.
Why are you? I'm not trying to. This isn't stop and frisk. Like, you don't have to invoke your Miranda rights. We're doing a fucking show.
There's life news that you know about that we're going to talk about in the Patreon. So I don't know if you're setting me up.
No, we are not setting up.
That.
We are not setting up for that.
Yeah,
no.
but if you want to know what I'm talking about, like, you have to pay.
You have to pay.
So yes,
That's
I'm fine, but life is weird now.
I always find, because we had the live show. Thank you to everybody who came out for our live show in DC. It was phenomenal. And by the way, shout out again to the Studio Theater who put us up there.
It was a wonderful venue.
Phenomenal venue.
Love that venue.
Great staff, and we got multiple compliments on the audio quality.
Good.
Because they had their hands on the faders. They were doing a great job with it. So big shout out to the Studio Theater. The next time we do a DC show, which I assume we're probably going to wind up doing maybe one or two a year.
I think we found our home in DC for live shows.
Well, yeah. And then we'll have to find out whether or not we're all in the White House press corps now.
Well, I know. I actually got a text from my aunt. She was like, you have to go if you're allowed as a podcaster in the White House press room now. It's like, I think she might be right. I mean, like, if we have access, shouldn't we take it?
I don't think I'm going to get access, will I?
They just announced that we will.
Have you seen the news?
Wait, we, as in the three of us?
No. Well, but like, possibly.
Like loser independent podcasters.
Basically, they are keeping.
Yeah, me too.
They are keeping one seat in the front row of the press briefing open for new media, podcasts, and influencers. And so everybody can submit. You will then be vetted, and then you will be offered a seat there. I think I might have a shot, if only because, I don't know about you guys, but I've been getting White House press pool emails since the administration started. So I am on some list with the White House press corps for podcaster.
Well, weren't you following all the campaign stuff? And because you get those emails, you like those emails. I avoid them like the plague.
Yes, I get all the campaign emails, but also these are different. These are like, this is what the president is doing each day. This is like, there's a pool, right? So that follows the president. And so they will give like a running blog of what the president did. So it's like the president went to a sub shop in Las Vegas. The president walked in. He's wearing a black pea coat. He walked up to the person, the sandwich artist, and said, "Great sandwiches. I love sandwiches." The sandwich artist said, "Thank you, Mr. President." They then walked out. Like, that's
a riveting
so
read.
You get an email. Yeah, but sometimes that matters, right? Because sometimes there is news that happens, or you want a record of everything that happened when and where they were doing it. So it does matter. But I've never gotten those emails before, and I'm getting them now. So I think I might have a shot. I don't know. I do need to apply.
We've already been credentialed through Congress.
For the RNC, yeah.
Yeah, so
and the
we're
DNC.
on something.
We're on some email.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys aren't getting those? I didn't know if everybody
there,
else
right?
wasn't.
Wouldn't it make sense for me? I live in DC. I've got an orange hat. Seems like the thing I should do.
I mean, you should be our guinea pig. If you can get in, then the two of us have a shot.
I can get in, you can get in. If I can get in, the listeners can get in.
Let's get to it. On Sunday, Colombian President Gustavo Petro initially refused to accept U.S. military deportation flights, citing concerns over the dignified treatment of returning migrants. In response, President Donald Trump threatened to impose a 25% tariff on Colombian imports and implement visa sanctions against Colombian officials. Facing potential economic repercussions, Petro reversed his stance, agreeing to accept the deportees and offering the presidential plane to ensure a dignified return. Mr. Andrew Heaton, reckless blowhard nonsense, Nixonian madman theory. What say you?
Mostly dick measuring, I think. Mostly dick measuring. And the reason I say that is to like, okay, so let's back up in the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Day one, he renames the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that bit?
Yep.
And Google said that they'll actually honor that.
As soon as it gets officially changed in the American registry, that they will honor it.
So we do get to name that?
Yeah. As far as we're concerned. Like Mexico may not name it the Gulf of America.
Jen, the French don't call the English Channel the English Channel. That's something the English call the English Channel. Like,
what do they call it?
Le ditch le français. I don't know. The French ditch or some shit. Who gives a shit? We won the war. So did they technically. But you get to the ones that weren't collaborating with the Nazis. They won.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could say whatever you want. You can define whatever you want. Like that kind. There might be some kind of secret legal play there that I'm unaware of, where like there's some congressional law that says you can't put oil wells like 8 miles out of the Gulf of Mexico.
That was the rumor. The rumor was that renaming was because of a Biden environment, a Biden EPA thing that they put in. Yeah,
if that is true, that's utter horse shit. Like if we wrote a law that's like, hey, California, you're not allowed to like dump radioactive waste in ditches anymore, and California like changed its name to California with a K, we'd be like, we said what you did there. You can't do that, right? So I think what that probably was a rhetorical win. There's a lot of people for whom they just want like, fuck yeah, America. Like, yay, like we're doing it. We're beating people. And like, that was a dumb thing to do where you like, there's no actual material difference. You're not getting any more money. Nothing's changing. But if your ego is our flag larger than your flag, then you get a benefit out of that, I guess. Right. So I see a lot of that going on here with the Colombia situation mixed with the added thing. I'll add in the kind of the pro-Trump thing. It's always difficult for me in these immigration settings to figure out what is Trump doing differently, but he is interpreted as evil. So, for example, the kids in cages thing that went back to the last Trump administration,
2018. Yeah,
that started with Obama for good reason, which was when we were building detention centers for people coming in. You have lots and lots of people. You don't know who they are. There's a lot of women and children, and you turn the lights out at night. You don't want to have a bunch of women, children, unattended with guys they don't know all hanging out in a gym. That's going to be a bad news thing. So they put chain link fences and they went, women and children, you're going to be over here. Dudes, you're going to be over here. They separated families, but it made sense because they were trying to make sure that bad acting goes. When Trump does it, it's now putting kids in cages. And so it's hard for me to suss out how much of this
camps.
Yeah, how much of this is Trump and what's his name from Colombia doing a dick measuring contest, which is what this strikes me as, versus how much of this is rhetorical flourish. The reason I bring the rhetorical flourish thing up is the Biden administration had 120 deportation flights to Colombia last year. So it's not like this is new. Like we've been doing deportation flights to Colombia. It's that now Trump is doing it. Now, the bit that could be different, that is what people are harping on, is that the people that were on the planes were shackled. That does seem unnecessary to me. I don't know what the administration's position is on that.
Well, they were also military planes.
Yeah, so it's not like
different.
So Biden did 475 deportation planes total to Colombia, but every one of them was a commercial flight. So the people that were on it,
they chartered it.
Yeah. So they were sitting in actual seats and they weren't handcuffed. On military flights, they don't have seats. So we're kind of assuming that they were sitting like crisscross applesauce with handcuffs on. And so that's why President Petro is like, if you're going to return these people, at least do it with some dignity. Like these people don't need to be treated that way. So that's what started this whole thing. Okay. He was not unwilling to take the people. He was just unwilling for them to be shipped back in that manner.
Okay, well, so unless there's a particularly good reason to put them on a military plane, again, that strikes me as Trump doing rhetorical bullshit.
Yeah, no, the reason why they're using military.
How
reason
big and bad we are. I'm incorporating the military into it. Again, is there a good reason for that?
So the reason why is that
military flight.
Well, technically, it depends, right? It is cheaper to charter a flight than it is to run the military flight. That being said, the United States of America does not have total control over when the chartered flights can leave based on the availability of the people that they're chartering the flights from. So if you add in that we have to store these people somewhere until you can get the chartered flight, then the argument is that it is faster and cheaper to use the military plane because we control totally exactly how and when those leave. So that has been the argument from the incoming administration as to why they are using military planes, is because it is a faster and cheaper way to get people out of the country.
And the concern is that there's also the part that they're not saying out loud, which it's possible where the cruelty is the point. So in order to scare these people to be like, oh, you're going to be shackled on a military plane instead of in these comfy seats, like maybe this is a deterrent, or maybe you'll try and get yourself home, or it's just like they kind of punish people in those ways. And so I think that was one of the concerns, not only of the Colombian president, but of myself. I don't think that we need to be, harsh on these people. We can treat them with some measure of dignity while we're shipping them
these
away.
Sex criminals comfortable.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like, we don't know who these people are. So this assumption that they're all sex criminals and murderers and like, that's the propaganda. But I know for a fact that there's people that are being caught up in these raids that are actually American citizens. And so they're not being shipped out of the country, but we're treating people poorly. The ICE agents are, who have done absolutely nothing wrong. So the idea that like, we're just going to say, well, they're all just criminals anyway. Like, we don't actually know that. So maybe we shouldn't say that as fact. We don't know who these people are.
Well, I'll say that they are criminals if they're illegally trespassing in the United States. They have violated federal law. So like ipso facto, they are criminals in that capacity. Are they dangerous criminals? Probably not. Again, I want to double the amount of immigrants coming in. I want to make it easier for people to get into the country. So I'm very pro-immigrant.
I know you do, but we also have to like wonder what their definition of illegal is, because there are people here that are on asylum claims that actually, if you claim asylum, you're technically here legally. It's not illegal. And yet these are people that they're also trying to round up and ship out. So this is why I think it's important to just take a breath and make sure that we actually know who these people are. And I think this has only been happening for a week. I just want us to be a little bit careful about branding these people, because we don't actually know what their stories are, the actual legal status of them. Like, I just want us to be a little bit careful. Phil. I know the Dr. Clip one, or Dr. Phil one.
Did you see Dr. Phil?
Was it from Kill Tony? Because that was great. I really liked that.
No, it was. Although Adam Ray's probably
I don't like
next.
him as much as the Kill Tony version.
No, it was the real Dr. Phil. He did a ride along with Tom Homan, the border czar, which is hilarious that they are calling this guy the border czar. That is entirely out of spite to the Biden administration, because Kamala Harris ran away from the title border czar. So this guy's like, no, I am the border czar, new sheriff in town. But they're being very, very public with a lot of these deportations, with Tom Homan doing a lot of press and also allowing ride-alongs from people who have gigantic followings, including Dr. Phil. So there was this clip that went viral over the weekend where Dr. Phil is like talking to this dude who's handcuffed, and he's just like, so you're illegal? Are you a citizen? Your mom's a citizen? And the guy's like, are you Dr. Phil? He's like, oh, you know me, huh? Okay. Yeah. Where do you know me? He's like, the TV. And anyway, Tom Homan comes in, stage right, is like, he's a sex criminal. Shackle him. We're getting out of here. But he did a whole ride along with him.
It was this whole skit. It's performative and gross. But
I mean, but also it's like, let's. A
lot of this is performative. It's true.
Yeah. But I mean, anyway, let's get back to the Colombian thing.
Hey, Jen, I don't disagree with anything you said. Like, look, we should always be a compassionate people. We should always be a dignified people. There is a mandate that the president has to obey the law of the land. That means that if people are violating it, whether I like the law or not, I'm not gonna have a problem with the president executing the law, but the manner in which they execute it is still under their control. And we should be very aware that most of the people that are trying to come to the United States are here because they love their families and they're trying to find something better for themselves, which is fine and laudable. So if we can figure out a way to do it, I would love to have immigration reform. Absent that, if we're going to be doing all of this and shipping off a bunch of people, if we can do it in a more humane, compassionate manner, I'm all in favor of that.
Yeah, agreed. I just think that we need to, when it comes to who these people are, like I'm really concerned about the Lake and Riley Act now that it's been signed, because what that allows them to do is to round up people who have been accused of crimes, not committed or convicted of anything. And so that does really set the stage for rounding up people who haven't done anything wrong. And so just like the branding that I've seen quite widely it doesn't matter. All of these people are the criminal kind of immigrants. Like that's who we're rounding up. I'm not sure that that is true, especially from here on forward, now that Lake and Riley is the law of the land. And so I want to be very careful that we're not adding to the branding of these people as all criminals, because that's not even the law anymore.
Well,
can we suss this out a little bit further?
Yeah.
Though? 'Cause, like, again, I think all of us want more immigrants, make it more easy, reform the immigration system. Again, I would double the amount of people coming in. What I don't want to have,
I got some citizens I'd like to deport, but go ahead.
I don't want to have laws on the books that the president doesn't execute because we don't like them or we think they're mean. Like, I think if we're going to have laws, we need to follow them. Otherwise, we have arbitrary laws that are arbitrarily dictated by whoever's in power. That's not a nation of laws. I don't want to have that, right? So I would rather execute a bad law than have incredible latitude to just do whatever you feel like. So if somebody is trespassing in the United States, like that is violating the law, they are doing a criminal act, they would be a reasonable person to be deported for that reason under the law as it exists. In terms of how we go about it, and in terms of the emphasis that we're doing, like obviously I'd rather, like if we have limited resources, as we always do, I would rather we focus that on dangerous criminals, like people that are stealing things or committing violence, violent criminals, dangerous criminals, that sort of thing.
Well, again, that's what I'm saying. Like we have now made it law that you can round up people who you don't know if they're stealing and you don't know if they've committed any crimes. You just have to have them be accused of that to have them be rounded up in these deportations. And the people I'm most concerned about are the ones who came here as asylum seekers. So they showed up, they were released into the United States because we have such a long line for their trials. We've talked about this on the show. Well, now their appointments have been canceled. And so they're technically here without papers, but they didn't actually technically come here illegally. And so those are the people, when I look at the Lake and Riley Act, where it's like, oh, we just have to accuse you of a thing. We don't have to have proof. We don't have to have a trial, nothing. And you are here legally under the rules of the Biden administration, but we've now completely changed the rules. That's who I'm concerned about. And the massive numbers of people that were showing up at the border over the last few years, they were mainly asylum seekers. So there's a lot of people.
Because the system was being abused.
But it's still the system. So that's what I'm saying. Like, to just brand all of them as illegals, it's not that black and white. And to say that they're all criminals, it's not that black and white, because now an accusation is all it takes to round them up, put them in a cage, and ship them to another country. So I'm just saying it's an atmosphere that's ripe for abuse. And so I just want to be very careful in the way we speak about these human beings, because we don't know who they are. We don't know their stories, and we actually don't know their legal status.
I believe the guy that Dr. Phil was yelling at was a pedophile.
Okay, so there's a dude, but we also know that there's like plane loads of people being rounded up in a way that, like, the way that they're rounding people up, American citizens have been caught up in it. So I'm not sure that they're doing the due diligence to make sure that all of these people are who they're saying they are. So I just want to be really careful, because we just don't know.
There is a process before deportation. Before you get put on the flight, there is a process that happens. Whether or not we find out that is being abused,
faithfully executed,
then we will find out.
Exactly. So that's why I just want to be careful before we brand them all as criminals.
Like I'm happy to call them national trespassers or something. I'm not really hung up on word choice in general. Like when you say criminal, are we talking about the same thing? Like when you say criminal, are you using that as a proxy for violent criminal?
No, I mean like criminal for anything. Like we no longer have the requirement to be considered criminal enough to deport, to cage and deport. Now that we have Lake and Riley as the law of the land, you can be accused of stealing. You can be accused of shoplifting. Accused. That's it. And you are now eligible to be detained and deported. And that's pretty low bar.
If you don't have a visa to be in the United States,
you might be an asylum seeker.
And if
That's
you're an
the
asylum
problem.
seeker, if you're an asylum seeker and you've been given asylum status or pending asylum status, it wouldn't apply to you. But if you've not filed for asylum and you're here illegally and you don't have a visa, you would be eligible for deportation, regardless of whether you did any.
Also, I don't know if there is any change to your asylum status if there is some kind of criminal complaint against you. I don't know what the law is on that.
And so here's the problem. Even the ACLU is not really sure what's going on right now. There's a lot of question marks because if you're here, you're allowed to be here because you've claimed asylum while you're waiting for your appointment, but your appointment has been canceled. Does that then make you illegal? And then this is what I'm saying. There's so many question marks about how this is being executed, what the law really is for these asylum seekers. Like, do they count as illegals? Do they count as legally here as asylum? And all that really matters at this point is how the Trump administration is interpreting that. And we don't really know. We're having this conversation on the 28th. He's been president for 8 days. So I'm just saying there's a lot of question marks. And one of my biggest question marks is, are these people actually criminals? And what I've seen, and I'm not talking about you guys, but I'm just saying in general, the branding has been, well, they're just shipping criminals. We don't know that. So, and now that Lake and Riley
don't not know that.
No, now that Lake and Riley is the law of the land, we don't know that because accusations are enough.
Hey, Jen, I do not know what the Lake and Riley Act is. I will admit this. I've seen that we passed it, and I know it has to do with immigrants. I don't know anything about it. Can you please walk us through?
I mean, that's totally fair because it just became law a couple days ago. It was something that Democrats actually helped the Republicans do. But the idea behind it is if someone is here illegally and they have stolen something, and then they added things to it. So if they have done something violent, if they've sexually assaulted someone, so there's a list of crimes now. And the idea behind it was if these people are in our country without proper paperwork, we should be able to say, like, you committed a crime in our country, and so we want to ship you out. The problem with the way they wrote it is it includes people who have been accused of. So that's the issue. It's not like there was any kind of process that was put in there. They don't have to go through the courts, so you don't actually get convicted. You're not an actual criminal. And so one of the main concerns about this new law is that, if someone is sexually abusing someone who's here illegally or is an asylum seeker or whatever, they can say, well, this person, hit me back. This person stole from me. And that accusation could be enough if the cop really wants to detain that person. So it's the fact that, like, the idea behind it of getting criminals out of the country, like, fine. And that's what people were voting for. But it didn't go so far as to making sure that these people are criminals.
Feels like we're building a straw immigrant.
The bit that I'm confused
I don't know
about.
what that means.
I spent a lot of time in the UK, as you both know. The way current American British law works is I can spend up to 6 months in any given 12-month period in the United Kingdom legally on a tourist visa, right? I've never overstayed that, but theoretically, if I were to stay in the United Kingdom for 7 consecutive months, I would no longer legally be staying in the United Kingdom. I would not have a legal visa. And if I came into a British office and they realized that, they would be within their right to say, you have to get out. Your visa is no longer valid. So that's where I'm getting confused at. If somebody doesn't have a visa or a pending asylum status, they're not here legally. They're not entitled to be in the country legally. Can't they be deported anyway by virtue of that? But
by the way, Heaton, there is an element of a difference between somebody who crosses the border illegally. That is a crime. It is a crime to cross the border illegally. It is not technically a crime to overstay your visa in America. And that's something that was pointed out by Billy Binion, who I met drunk at the DC happy hour.
Billy's a good friend of mine and a colleague. He's a good dude.
Yeah. But he has pointed that out on social media, that technically overstaying your visa is not a crime. You have the ability to be kicked out of the country, but it's not technically a crime.
Yeah. I wish to amend my statement and apologize to Jen. Jen, apparently I was getting hung up on wording and I was incorrect. It would be incorrect.
No. Crossing the border is a crime. So, like, anybody who crosses the border, they are technically a criminal.
But also the deportations are for people that don't have documentation, right? So we're not just talking about people that illegally cross the border. Yeah. We're talking about people, because as I understand it, at least pre-Trump, this is now like 10-year-old information, but 10 years ago, the majority of people that were illegally in the country did legally come here and then overstayed their visa, but they would not be criminals.
Three of the 9/11 hijackers overstayed visas.
But they wouldn't be criminals. They would just be ineligible to be in the country.
Right? I think the 9/11 hijackers are criminals.
Yes, Justin. I mean,
I'll take the stand if the rest of you two are going to be weak-willed, yellow-bellied scoundrels.
I think the main issue here is that our immigration laws are so unclear. And I think everyone in Congress knows that. And they talk about it all the time. And especially when it comes to asylum seekers, the reason this was such a big deal in the last 2 years is that they know that those statuses are so unclear. So again, it all comes down to the interpretation of the Trump administration, which seems to be packed full of people that just want to get these people the fuck out of our country. And so we really have to be.
And part of the reason is because that's hilariously popular. It is incredibly popular. It's like 85% popular to deport criminals. It is like 55% popular to deport just illegal immigrants. Like even if they are not criminals, if they are just here illegally, it is majority popular. This is something that we have never seen in our lifetime. It is net popular for that to happen.
Yeah, but public opinion doesn't really account for the fact that most people don't understand our immigration system. They don't understand that legal status is like kind of a gray area. Like, so I don't really care what the popularity of this is. I care more about
cake.
I can't talk to you, Justin. You're such a troll.
Maybe it'd be like a quinceañera.
Once again,
cake.
Justin, the tribune of the plebs, Justin, who believes fundamentally in democracy, is at odds with Heaton and Jen, the genial elitists. I will own my position as a genial elitist.
Yeah, Congress doesn't really know what the law is, but the public sure does. So their opinion fucking matters. Like, okay.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I mean, politicians act because of public opinion.
Yeah,
like
but the public opinion.
That is how they act. That is why we get, like you might not like it. I'm just telling you why it is.
But also like the questions that you're asking matter. So if you say, are you in support of deporting criminal illegal immigrants? A lot of people are going to say yes, but they don't understand that might not necessarily be what's happening right now. So that's why I think like details matter. And I want us to be a little bit more careful with our words.
You've said be more careful. Have we said anything that's out of pocket?
I mean, you're comparing the immigrants to the 9/11 hijackers. So
well, 3 of the 9/11 hijackers overstayed visas. That's all I'm saying. And I think they're criminals.
That's a tough stance you took.
Unlike my two co-hosts who aren't able to say the same.
Justin, I just think capitalism's the worst evil here. And if somebody wanted to take a shot at it with a plane, I guess who can say what's right and wrong?
I'm not here.
You know that it's a group of millennials talking when everything comes back to 9/11. It all eventually circles back to 9/11 with us.
I know.
And Britney Spears.
Did you guys know about the state of emergency in Colombia?
No.
Yeah, so this is another part of the story that I do.
Oh, yeah. Can we get back to this? Was fascinating. This is like all unfolded in like 4 hours entirely on social media, which I thought was like a fascinating window into our modern world, that this was, regardless of whether or not it was smart or good or our immigration system is good or bad, like this whole thing existed on microblogging platforms, whether X or Truth Social, that the heads of state were saying, fuck you, I won't take this plane. Or Trump saying, oh, really? How about we collapse your economy in 5 seconds and none of your officials will be allowed in America. We'll put them on the next plane, the fuck out of there. And everything was settled within like 4 hours, which left everybody's hot takes in the breeze.
Well, it was a real threat because since the 2006 trade agreement that the W. Bush administration worked out with Colombia, we've become Colombia's main trading partner. And so us slapping those tariffs on, especially if they went up to 50%, would have really screwed over Colombia.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this president, it's interesting that he did this at this time, because a week ago, let me make sure I get this right. A week before all of this happened, there were insurgents. So it's like in Colombia, there's always been these like insurgents. So it's like there's the FARC people and the ELM people. And so it's like that whole group that hasn't gone away, even though we've given them billions of dollars to fight them. And so that happened again. The insurgents drove thousands of Colombians from their homes and into neighboring Venezuela. And so this president declared a state of emergency, and then a week later picks a fight with Donald Trump. So it's like, was this a distraction? Is this a way to appeal to the Venezuelans and be like, look, the U.S. is bullying us too? The Venezuela thing is also interesting that it's involved in this at all, because one of the problems that Trump is going to have with this Colombian president is he's not the guy that Trump had partnered with in 2019 to help overthrow Venezuela. And the president that the Trump administration and our new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, really wanted out on his ass is still the president of Venezuela. So I don't think that operation is over.
Elections be damned.
Yeah. And so this president of Colombia is a little bit closer to Venezuela than United States. So it's just like to see the big swinging dick go against Colombia first, I find kind of fascinating. And I think that the Venezuela aspect in there, I think it's part of it.
I think it got shut down pretty quick.
Oh, it did. I mean, Trump definitely showed Petro who's boss. But I don't think that
and the internet threw Petro's dating habits out into the streets, which
before we get into that, I just hold on. I know this is a rabbit hole. So hold on. I just want to say real quick before we go off in that direction. I don't think this is the win that everyone is portraying that it is for Trump, because at the end of the day, the demand of the Colombian president was don't shackle our people and stick them on military planes. And the people now are on a plane that was chartered by that president. They are not shackled. They're in normal seats. So it's like he actually got what he wanted.
Yeah, he just had to pay for it.
Well, no, the tariffs never happened.
No. But he's offering his plane. So it's like the solution was I'll send my plane to take them back.
Okay. But he got what he wanted. So
sure. Yeah. But I think America's like, sure, we don't have to pay for the military flight. Like, awesome. Cool.
All of this sounds like dick measuring to me, like where it's like a guy being able to go back to his people and brag, we beat the other country. If you go back, like way back to like when democracy started happening, like in all countries, all the chattering thinking class people went, hey, now that democracy is happening, we will never have wars again, because no one in their right mind would vote for a war. We've all been peasants for so long, used as toy soldiers by these inbred dukes. But now we're not going to have wars and there's going to be global peace. And it turns out, no, like people really like going, yeah, Britain's kicking Prussia's ass. I don't know why I had that accent, but people really like it. And like there is this like years ago, this is like 20 years ago now, I read some article about how like India had a bigger roller coaster than America and how that was like a sign of national decline. And I was like, whose ego is tethered to who has the biggest roller coaster? It doesn't matter. Our roller coaster is just as big as it was. China could have twice as big. But I think for a lot of people, their sense of status and self-worth is caught up in, is their country kicking other countries' ass? And like Trump is doing that. The Colombia guys doing that.
We're kicking the most ass. Woo! Hell yeah.
And I'm saying focus on math. Yeah. Focus on math.
Oh, whatever.
Okay.
Go measure your head again.
Oh my God. Tell us about Petro's dating.
I have no idea whether or not this is true. This is just stuff that came out as like, so there was a beautiful moment amongst all the football on Sunday where all this is happening. And it reminded me.
Actual football, Heaton.
And
I call it soccer for the record.
I know, he does. It reminded me a lot, actually, of when Soleimani got killed in Iraq, where you had that big moment on social media that was like, World War III. This is World War III. Everything is spiraling. This is everything that we worried about with Trump.
I flipped out. I was wrong.
Like this is the end of it. Congratulations, MAGA. You're going to be on the front lines in Tehran because this is all falling apart. And then nothing really happened. Right. It was a big thing that like spurred a lot of hot takes and not much else. And so in this case, you have the Colombian president come out on social media and say, we are not going to take this flight. It gets turned away. Donald Trump goes on Truth Social and says, okay, well, here's your economic death sentence if you don't smarten up and fly right. And then it in that intermediate time before the Colombian president, before there were reports that there was going to be an agreement here, there was the MAGA side that was, much as Heaton said, very chest beating, like, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Yeah,
these killers don't run.
Show them who's boss. And then there was the anti-Trump side that was like, well, guess what? All you inflation people that didn't vote for Kamala because of that. Well, guess what? Now coffee's going to be more expensive. And
your flowers for Valentine's
exactly.
Day.
Yeah, your Valentine's Day. None of you are going to get laid, you assholes. Like, and then it got wrapped up in like 2 seconds, and the tariffs went away and the visa threat wasn't a thing. And then it was just kind of left in the breeze. But amongst all that was a thing that I have no idea if it's true. I have no idea if any of this is true. That the Colombian president is dating a trans woman and has spent time in Colombia defending the fact that he's not gay. That is like an internal Colombian discussion. And then there was videos of him holding hands with somebody that was presented as a trans woman on Twitter. So I have no idea about that. All I know is that, boy, when he woke up that morning and said, I am going to deny this flight, I bet you he did not expect to have whatever this internal Colombian dialogue about whether or not that woman is trans, or whether or not he is gay out there into the streets. And yet, on the digital cobblestones, there it was.
There you go. I don't want to comment about that.
Patreon.com/We're Not Wrong. On this edition of the program, we're going to be talking about a federal return to office, something that Jen does have a personal angle on, and Heaton will have to be very careful with his words, since now literally everybody he knows or is around probably will be affected by this, since it is a very local story.
Hey, listen,
to DC.
I did a great job of turning tail and licking boot as soon as I moved to Washington, D.C. Anybody who heard the last episode knows I've changed my allegiance from previously the salt of the earth people in the middle country from whence I hail. Now I'm with the lizard people. The lizard people are great. I think the lizard people need more money and power.
Exactly. He's practicing how to lick his eyeball right now just to fit in with the lizard crowd.
Yep.
He's doing this podcast laying on a hot rock.
I think we need more student council presidents to come to Washington, D.C.
That's patreon.com/We're Not Wrong. In August of 2024, during a press tour for the drama It Ends With Us, rumors emerged of tension between stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, highlighted by their avoidance of joint appearances. In December of last year, Lively filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department alleging that Baldoni created a hostile work environment through inappropriate sexual comments and boundary violations. A subsequent New York Times story detailed how a firm hired by Baldoni sought to shape public opinion against Lively in online spheres like YouTube and Reddit. In response, Baldoni denied the allegations and filed a $250 million libel lawsuit against the New York Times, accusing the publication of pushing an unverified and self-serving narrative. The tit for tat has since expanded, with personal text messages and voice memos between the two actors being shared publicly. And interestingly, to the world of political commentary, Candace Owens has inserted herself into the mix with a Baldoni-favored argument that this is all instigated by Blake Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, who became jealous that his wife might be falling in love with Baldoni on the set. Jen, I ask you, why? Why is this even a thing? Why is this squirting into politics? Why the movie apparently wasn't good. Nobody wanted to see the movie. It made a bunch of money, but I have no idea why this is a thing. And yet you are fascinated by it.
I am, because I think anyone who thinks this is just Hollywood gossip is really missing the points. Like there's 4 different ways that I'm fascinated by this story.
Point the first.
So let me just give you kind of the timeline of what this is.
Okay.
Because I think you kind of need to understand that to understand anything. So the movie was made a few years ago. Last summer, it was coming out. And people first started noticing something was weird when at the premiere, Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively and all of the marketing for this movie, they were nowhere near each other. And people just thought that was weird because they're in the movie, they're a couple, and he's the director.
It is a story of an emotionally and physically abusive relationship, but it is theoretically based on the chemistry of these two actors.
Well, so I am a professional. And so last night I forced my husband to watch the movie with me.
What?
I did. So I've actually seen it. And the truth is we both really liked it. It was really good. I enjoyed every second of it. And I've seen quite a few Blake Lively productions. So it's like, I watched Gossip Girl. I hate myself for it, but I did. Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I've seen both of them. So I've seen her act before. I've never found her amazing. Like, she's fine. She gets the job done. But the chemistry between these two, off the charts. And so the idea that maybe something happened between these two, like, I don't think it's impossible because who? So, but yeah, the whole movie, it's pretty predictable. You know, like, they date, they fall in love, he starts beating her. Wait,
what?
So,
that's not usually the way that it goes.
I mean, it's exactly the storyline that you kind of think it's going to be if it's a story about domestic violence. And
then she frees herself at the end.
Exactly. Yeah. So this movie is coming out. It's pretty well known that she wasn't just an actress in it because she had a producer credit. And so the movie comes out, they're not seen together. And at the same time, there is this explosion of stories on social media that was really hard to avoid unless you're Andrew Heaton and don't even know who these people are.
Wait, can I ask just a clarifying question real quick, just so I can help from it? Blake Lively.
Yeah.
Is a girl?
Yes.
Yes. She's beautiful.
Named Blake. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
That was what was throwing me off. Please continue.
She is not the country star who is married to Gwen Stefani, who you thought she was in our chat this morning.
I literally thought, I thought, yeah, folks at home, I texted these two and was like, is this one of these things where I need to spend 5 hours learning about tort law? Or is this one of those things that's funny because I don't know? And it sounds like it's more the latter.
Yes.
Because I thought Blake Lively was a country singer.
It was Blake Shelton.
No.
Who Blake I thought Lively was the character on Big Bang Theory.
No, that's Sheldon.
Okay, Sheldon Blake. Yeah. All right. Anyway, Jen, please continue.
Not Sheldon Whitehouse, the senator.
So most people already know this, but Blake Lively is a drop-dead gorgeous actress. She's married to Ryan Reynolds. They have a bajillion dollars. She's besties with Taylor Swift. They have, between her and Ryan, they have multiple product lines. Like Blake is selling, and this actually is relevant. Blake has a clothing line and a beauty line and an alcohol line, which
they both have booze lines.
They do, which is kind of icky because people know that Blake Lively doesn't drink, and yet she's willing to sell attractively packaged poison to other people. So from the very beginning, Betty Booze has had kind of this like ick to it, but they're selling a lot of things and they make a lot of money through their products. And so in August-ish of last year, when this movie was coming out, there's just this barrage everywhere of negative stories about Blake Lively. And it's kind of surprising.
Bitch. Nobody likes her.
No one likes her. Like,
she was
she's
mean
tough
to a reporter.
Yeah. And it's like I watched that video. She wasn't mean to the reporter. It was just like all of this negative stuff. And it's like, where is this coming from? And it was everywhere. And so her reputation was definitely tarnished by that because it was just such a big story. It was like television was talking about, social media. It was all over the place. And so a few months go by, and in December, this New York Times article drops that explains that whole thing that we saw in the summer where everyone's trashing Blake Lively was actually arranged by Justin Baldoni and a PR team. And they had the text to back it up. And the idea was because on set, Blake Lively had said that she felt uncomfortable in certain sexual situations. And her allegations, like, this is one of those things where if you want to figure out, you know, whose side you're on, it's going to be very, very difficult because it's very unclear. So I don't even really want to get into that. But because there was trouble on the set, the idea was he was afraid that was going to get out. And so he did this, you know, trash her campaign. So when that information comes out, his reputation
it was from an unreputable source because nobody would like her. And so she would be, it would be another bad piece of behavior from somebody that people already don't like.
Well, that was the thing. She was liked. And so then you have this PR campaign that made people not like her. So it's all about reputation management. This whole thing is about reputation management. And one of the storylines that I find fascinating about it is because this PR campaign, you kind of got a glimpse through the New York Times article into like how this shit works. You know, that you pay these people a couple $100,000 and this PR firm will just plant stories.
Shit post on Reddit until all the suburban moms are furious.
Yeah. And like at one point, Justin Baldoni asked, like, are you guys using bots? And they're like, no, we don't have to do that. We're just floating some stories. But then it kind of got away from them because social media does some things. And he was like, this is a really nasty accusation. Was this us? And they're like, no, that wasn't us. So it's like they did this thing. It's like they set the beast out and then lost control of it. And so So yeah, that comes out in December. So now a lot of people are like, oh, well, he's an asshole. It wasn't her. And a couple days later, she files this lawsuit. It's like 80 pages and it details all the stuff that she says went on set. And so then a couple weeks ago, he countersues for, I think, $400 million because of the hit to his reputation. And now he has a bunch of text messages. And it's, if you want to go down this rabbit hole, oh my God, is it deep? And honestly, like I've seen enough to know that I think they're both insane. I think they're both power hungry.
These seem like really well-adjusted people. I'm curious their political opinions.
Well, and so this is why I'm so fascinated by this story. And I think a lot of people are, because not only is this a story of like reputation management, and so the financial successes and failures that come through your reputation, because Blake Lively's, she did like a product launch for shampoo or some shit and like no one bought it and they were expecting people to buy it. And like people have been like buying all of her stuff for a long time. So she's taking an enormous financial hit, hence the lawsuits. But it's also like a weaponization of the lawsuits, because if you look at this New York Times article, a lot of the information that it used was just from the lawsuit, where if she had just gone straight to the New York Times, they would probably have to fact check all of this stuff. But because they're just reporting on a lawsuit, I don't know how much of it is fact checked. And so it's interesting, like rich people having the ability to weaponize lawsuits in this way to get their message out is another storyline here, because like you and I can't afford to go through this.
Yeah. LegalZoom, you can sue anyone.
You can, but I mean,
I got a lawyer right here on my computer called
we're talking about
Esquire.
Numbers in the hundreds of millions that they're talking about in these lawsuits. And so it's a big money game. It's also interesting in like the PR tricks. Do they even work anymore? Because both of their teams are trying to manage this story and both of them are just getting absolutely tarnished. And then, of course, there's Me Too, because Blake Lively is out there being like, he harassed me. And there's a lot of people being like, we don't believe you. But then there's a bunch of people that are saying that they believe Baldoni. And it's like, is Me Too over? What does this mean?
Baldoni was a big ally.
Yeah, he's one of those.
He's like a big male feminist, like he was here. He actually optioned the book, which is a tale of female empowerment, but he optioned it first and then cast Blake Lively because he wanted to make sure that this tale of a female overcoming a toxic male was out there. And then, of course, cast himself as the toxic male. But like,
well, he cast, not only that, he was so excited about this movie. And one of the things that actually does seem quite clear is that Blake Lively kind of took it over.
Yes.
And it was pretty
Ryan
nuts.
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. So it's like, she not only was rewriting it in the moment, she was rewriting scenes, but there's this big fight that went down because she wanted the actual film so that she could create her own edit of the film.
And that's what came out.
They ended up using her
But you
edit.
liked it.
I loved it.
So
exactly.
Blake won.
She did. And that was the thing. The studio liked her edit better, but is it kind of a dick move? And is she kind of a bully? Because she did use Ryan and Taylor Swift to kind of push him into taking her versions of things. So it's power plays, it's reputation management.
Also,
it's wild.
Justin Baldoni alleges in one of the lawsuits that Ryan Reynolds made a character in the new Deadpool movie to make fun of him. But there is a character.
Because I actually did see that finally there's a goddamn pop culture reference.
There
I
we
saw
go.
that with my friend Brett and my other friend Doug. Went and saw that with them. I saw it in theater. Okay, so which character was it?
Do you
Was
remember?
it
You remember Nice Pool?
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, that Justin Baldoni alleges that Nice Pool was created to make fun of him.
Nice Pool sounds nice.
When I saw it
doesn't
like
really
an
make a lot of
alternate
sense.
universe version of Deadpool that was a nice guy. Did I miss something?
Also, at the end, Nice Pool isn't revealed to be a dipshit, which I think his case would have greater credence if like you found out at the end that Nice Pool wasn't nice.
Yeah.
But he's nice throughout the entire thing. He's way nicer than the other two characters, and that's kind of a joke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gets shot. He does get shot. He does get shot and killed. So it's like, I guess like he does get shot and killed at a certain point, but you don't feel good about it. You feel bad about it. And it's motivation for Deadpool and Wolverine to further go on their journey.
I mean, one thing is, the only thing that's really clear to me is that we are dealing with some very overinflated egos here on both sides.
You think?
Yeah. So it's the characters are gross. The details of the story are not entirely necessary, but as a as a reflection on where we are with Me Too and Believe All Women, we're certainly not there anymore.
No. I don't believe we are.
And I think Candace Owens, I mean, she's not the best example of this because she loves to go against whatever, the liberal thing is. But look at Candace Owens. She's there taking Justin Baldoni's side in this. And honestly, I've seen enough to know that there's some reasons to do that. Like, here's a good example. One of Blake's accusations was that the producer and Justin Baldoni had come into her dressing room while she was breastfeeding.
Yes.
And that sounds like really, really bad until you see the text message where she's just like, where she says, "I'm in my trailer breastfeeding, come on over."
Yeah.
So it's like, there's all this evidence coming out by the release of these text messages on both sides that you don't know who to believe. But we're not just automatically believing the woman anymore.
Heaton, I have a theory. I want to float it by you. I believe that we are going to see more and more, and I will even go so far as to take the Rush Limbaugh'ian take that it will be more and more of the female commentators that became famous during the Trump administration, where I believe we overcreated political hot take artists, and that now in a shrinking market for political hot takes, or one that at least does not have the same kind of monetary reward as it once did a few years ago, you will see some of the more shrewd of them, and I would put Candace Owens among them, to go to a world where scandal never dies and consequence is far more fleeting than in the world of politics, and that is celebrity gossip. I think that there are a few people that I've kind of put on my radar, but like Megyn Kelly has done stuff on the Justin Baldoni stuff.
Kevin Clancy, KFC Barstool. He's a sports guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he's how I found out about this, honestly.
Candace Owens has gotten into it, but it's like there is partly because of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, which became huge, didn't have a clear political line, but it was a culture war line of like, why did Johnny Depp get canceled? I like Pirates of the Caribbean. And then like Amber Heard being like, oh, it turns out Amber Heard's a bitch. Maybe we're allowed to say women who said they were abused are bitches now. And like part of it was a snapback for Me Too.
It's happening again here. I mean, her reputation is really tarnished, especially her taking over the movie because it seems a little nuts.
But you liked it. She did it for the art.
She did a beautiful job. I loved the movie. Yeah.
But I think that we have there's going to be a reassignment of an overproduction.
So Justin, if I'm reading you correctly, politics became the celebrity gossip rag of 2016 forward, and now that's overplayed, and we're going to shrink in the political realm, and all the chattering talking head people are now going to migrate over to celebrity gossip,
or at least some of them.
Let me put it this way: Trump signed.
I'm happy with that. That sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, Trump signed a bunch of executive orders over the last week, right? One of them was on like trans surgeries for people under the age of 19. We have not seen nearly the reaction.
And I believe banned all transgender people from serving in the military, correct?
And exactly.
Like,
we have not
that's a big
seen
deal.
nearly the reaction to that we would have seen 4 years ago, or that we would have seen 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that would have been megaton detonation, which I don't necessarily think is reflective of how much America cares about it. I think we're probably seeing more of an accurate reflection of how much America cares about it, is because there was a gigantic complex that was put there on all sides of this issue for people to yell about it and then yell counter to it. And it was well capitalized organizations for which that was the story you were covering. You were going to talk about it.
And now it's exhausting.
And now you've seen less of those. They're not as financially viable, which means a lot more people are doing things by themselves. And so it's like you do actually have to go where people care. And guess what people will always care about? Celebrity gossip.
Is that why you think this story got so bad?
Did somebody get pregnant? Is somebody getting divorced? Like this is something that like it's its own industry for which has existed time immemorial. And it is as dependable, more dependable than politics.
But is that why you think this particular story got so big?
I don't think that I think this particular story in a lot of ways, people want the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing again. That's done. So they want another version of it. It's an off run of a lot of other, because it's orbiting a bunch of other celebrities that are also in ascendancy. Ryan Reynolds, Taylor Swift. I do think that there's an element of the snapback to Me Too. What I was more interested in is that like why is Candace Owens going all in defending Justin Baldoni, for whom she has nothing politically in common with? Like I was like, wait a minute, that's odd. So I don't know. I'm gonna be writing about this because I do think that the portal has opened, and you've seen some people walk one way through it. There's a woman, Jessica Reed Krause, who covered the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing, was a mommy blogger, and now is like firmly entrenched in politics because she was like an RFK backer. She's gigantic on Substack, gigantic on Instagram. But she walked from a very traditional gossip blogger perspective into the world of politics. And so I'm curious how many political people are going to walk the other way through that portal into the world of gossip. Because again, we've kind of seen it before. Hip hop was, it created a lot of people through the 90s and 2000s that were personalities that all of a sudden there was less of an interest. Hip hop was not quite as entertaining as a news story. So there needed to be less people that paid attention to it. And guess where a lot of those people went? Celebrity gossip.
Yeah.
Because that's a thing that will always be there. It will always exist. I don't think that it's a value judgment. I do think that it is an element of survival. And we live in a very rich era for celebrity gossip. There's never been more ways to catch people in things, no matter what. Justin Bieber is following or unfollowing somebody, and you can get 5 minutes out of it.
But this one wasn't organic. Like, this one had a PR firm pushing it to make it this big.
That's the other side of it. The other side of it is that there is, in the Alex Jonesian perspective, an info war that is happening. And it was fascinating to see, because on Reddit, I get surfaced various different subreddits. And so for a while, I was getting surfaced a bunch of gossip subreddits, like Dumois, I guess, is a big gossip Instagram. So FOMA is the Reddit equivalent of it, where people talk about it. And it was because of that story.
Yeah.
It was because of Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. And I'm like, I have no idea who Justin Baldoni is. I barely know who Blake
before
Lively
this.
is.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden it's all over my Reddit, and I'm like, man, people really, really, really hate Blake Lively. They really think Blake Lively's a bitch. I have no idea.
But like, who even knows how much of that was real? I thought
she was an incredibly good male country singer until about an hour ago.
I know. I figured like there's one pop culture story that's impossible to miss, and of course you missed it. Like, the whole point of this was like, you can't miss this.
No, yeah.
I don't know how
Jen's like, how did he miss it? And I'm like, Heaton's pop culture is like Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals and Dilbert strips. Like, I have no idea what is popping into the worldview of Heaton's pop culture sensibility.
I would pay attention to celebrity gossip if the celebrities had appeared in Star Trek. Like, I would give in. Like, I would be like, oh man, William Shatner's getting married again. He's 97. What? Like, I would pay attention to that. Really, outside of that, though.
Did you see, Heaton, that Justin Bieber unfollowed Milton Friedman?
Milton Friedman's been dead for a while.
Dead. Okay.
Well, that explains it.
I know what you were trying to do. You were trying to lure me in.
I was trying to make a joke. Nope, you got it. Put that layup into the third row. That attempted joke.
Have you heard of this YouTuber named Destiny? Do you know who that is?
I do. Yeah.
They were going to fly me to Miami, and then they didn't, because they're going through. There was like some show they were doing, and they split up. This happened yesterday. Like, I booked tickets and shit.
Wait, really? And you were going to be on Destiny's?
Because I didn't know who they were. I just, like, on Twitter, somebody was like, hey, who should come on my show? And then so Heaton would be good. And I was like, I just put on there, I'm charming, I'm fantastic.
Wait, they were going to fly you? It wasn't another podcast that would also have Destiny on?
I think it's that.
Yes.
I think it's that one.
Because Destiny does a lot of, talk about scandals with that man. Good Lord.
I don't know what the thing is. I just know that I'm not going to Miami now.
It might be, was it Fresh and Fit?
No, it was Bridges and AE. I was going to do those two.
This is just word salad.
So Destiny is a streamer, a political streamer, who talking about the world of gossip. The world of streamer and YouTuber gossip is its own different world, but it is more self-sustaining than the world of celebrity gossip. Micro celebrity gossip is a Centralia fire that will never ever die. So
that's a good
Destiny.
Reference. Continue.
Thank you. Destiny is a streamer who was famous for a while because he has very strong political opinions. He was notable for being a big Biden supporter when all the people online were Bernie supporters. And so he fought with a bunch of people there. He had this arc of kind of becoming disenchanted with the left because of reasons why people become disenchanted with the left for certain reasons.
Be careful.
And then got really hard into the idea that the people that got shot and killed during the Trump assassination deserve to die. Okay. That was a particularly spicy take from Destiny. And then in personal gossip, he was a polyamorous man who was married to somebody that he would often be made fun of because his wife would have sex with other men. There's a famous clip of his now ex-wife, I believe, dancing with another man behind him while he looks into his camera forlorn. That's a famous Destiny clip. But then most recently and scandalously, there was a clip that is, I'm sure, findable on the internet where he is a public bisexual, where he was, cover your ears, kids, blowing a man that may or may not have been famed white supremacist Nick Fuentes.
It's probably a good thing you got out of hanging out with this guy, Andrew.
This sounds amazing. This, because like I figured, I'm like, okay.
And that's not even the most recent thing. The most recent thing is that apparently he has a thing for finding young streamer girls for which he takes under his wing, has sex with, records the sex, and then shares the sex with other young streamer girls that he wants to have sex with. And so one of the streamer girls—
That sounds illegal.
That is the opinion of one of the streamer girls who says that she is bringing a lawsuit against him. I don't know. Disclaimer, I don't know whether any of that is true. I met Destiny once at a TwitchCon. He seemed like a very nice, if animated, man.
Okay.
I figured I was going to talk about my book, Tribalism is Dumb. That was what was going through my head. It was like, I don't know who these people are. I know Destiny's a thing. I've heard of Destiny. I was like, okay, you're going to fly. I'll go on any show. If you fly me out for it, like that means you're big enough to fly me. I'll go talk about why we shouldn't be partisan. That seems good to me. Now turns out I would have had to like bang this guy's wife or blow him or something. It would have been a fun weekend in Miami. I
think you might have gotten blown.
Probably.
You know,
he's the one who had a mouthful.
Oh God. Thinking of that story you just told of, if this is true and this young girl is filing a lawsuit against this person. And I think that's one of the reasons why I know I'm irritated with this Lively Baldoni thing.
Great segue back.
The weaponization of those lawsuits is because if this is all trading lawsuits because of reputation management, they both want to control the narrative. They both have enough money to file these. It makes it a lot harder for the people that have legit claims. And it's not just a power play over who controls the movie and a power play over the narrative. Like this rings to me as a weaponization of lawsuits.
It's almost as if that industry didn't really care about these kinds of issues at all.
Well, and so that's the problem too. Like what if, but the thing, like looking at Blake's, I hate saying this, but like looking at her accusations, he made me uncomfortable. Like he added kisses into our kissing scenes. And it's like watching how steamy that movie was. Like you're acting. This isn't Harvey Weinstein where it's like, come up to my office, blow me, or you don't get the film. Yeah. Like this is
blow my gangrenous penis.
Yeah. Like this is different. Like this is, you made me uncomfortable while we are doing a pre-planned sex scene. Like I don't know, but I've just seen enough to know that I don't think either of them are telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And so I do worry that I think Me Too, in the grand scheme of things, was a much needed thing, especially in Hollywood. And if we're now reverting so far and we're having, I don't know, I don't like these lawsuits.
I think two really good things came out of Me Too. One, I don't think the "Believe All Women" was a good tagline, because if Sarah Palin says I got molested by Chuck Schumer, he should be thrown out of the Senate, I'm going to go, I need to see some evidence there. This could be politically motivated. I have the controversial opinion that women are also human beings, and that they're capable of doing subterfuge just as a man. But I think what came out of what we got to, which is really good, is take all charges seriously. Take all women seriously. I do think that's a very good thing, that we shouldn't be dismissing things out of hand. And then the other thing is just, we really needed and need to look at power structures. If there's a situation where men can put women in sexually exploitative positions and there's not transparency or spotlight, they're probably going to do it. And so if you've got situations where you have really powerful dudes that can get away with this kind of crap, they're very apt to do it. And so like there are some really sclerotic exploitative institutions. Hollywood would be one of those carbuncles. I frankly think there's some stuff that's gone on in academia that never got the lid blown on it because the universities didn't want any of the donors to see scandals. And so they just didn't make it a thing. There's still some things that need to have light shown on them, in my opinion. But overall, though, I agree. I think it was a very positive development. And what's happening now is to some extent recalibration of like, take all charges seriously, which is where we need to be, as opposed to believe all women.
And I love that you brought up power structures, because a lot of the problems that were exposed during Me Too is exactly as you framed it. It was powerful men taking advantage of less powerful women. That's kind of flipped on its head in this one, because Blake Lively is the big star. She's the one with all the money and the fame, and the best friend who's Taylor friggin' Swift. And like her husband and Taylor Swift were involved in, whether it was on purpose or not,
that
but
was
they were
later
involved.
Though, right? I mean, like he optioned the script. He was the lead producer, and it was his production company
that was doing
everything.
During production.
Yeah.
So there's a scene that's very important apparently in the book. It's like where they meet, and Blake wanted to do it a certain way. So she rewrote the whole scene. So she takes it from this director who's in theory, he would be the powerful person here, but in life, she is. So she takes the scene, rewrites it, and then has him over and has Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds be like, this version is great. And then she pressures him, and like they have the text messages to show that like she was using like, look how powerful all these people are, my dragons. Like, you know, I thought it was manipulative the way that she got her scene.
That just sounds like Hollywood. That sounds like every star in Hollywood.
It's typical Hollywood bullshit. And that's why like the details aren't that interesting. But if you look at the power structure in this one, the actress is the one who exerts the power. And at the end of the day, it's the actress's script that got filmed, and her edit was the one that we all saw. So it's like,
and you loved.
And I loved it. Yes. And so that I have reasons to believe it was the better of the two scripts, but also like how ballsy is it as the actress to demand that you get the film and edit it yourself? I mean, this is just a woman who,
I mean, it's also a fight between producers, which is the other side of it.
And the studio, like there's a lot of different players, but like this is another reason why I think this is a fascinating case, because it turns that whole power structure on its head. In this instance, it is the woman who is more powerful here. She is the one in the position to bully. And we don't know if that's exactly what happened. I'm going to put my disclaimer on it, but that's why this one, I think that's why this one is
Did she make him blow Nick Fuentes?
I don't think so. I don't think there are any blowjobs involved.
That would have been a power move.
But yeah, but see what I mean? Like I see so many different facets to this story. I think that's one of the reasons it got big, but it's also because there was a PR firm behind making it that big. So how much of this is us being manipulated? Yeah. There's just a lot to it.
Makes you think, man. Rips bong.
I like the movie though.
I'm glad you saw it.
Yeah. I think I needed to really, because I think the running theory in my head now is thou doth protest too much. They're both married and those scenes were hot. And I just feel like something happened between, like, this is my guess, but I think something happened between the two of them. Mm-hmm. I think the phrase that people are using is caught feelings. And that makes sense to me.
You have something in common with Candace Owens, Heaton.
Okay, so Blake Lively's an actress.
Oh, gosh.
Blake Shelton is a country singer.
Singer, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, good. I got it.
Oprah, Uma. We're Not Wrong Pod at gmail.com. We're Not Wrong Pod at gmail.com. Admit Justin was right. Right. God. I can't wait until you talk about all of Biden's pardons. We talked about this on my show, but Heaton hasn't admitted that I was right.
I've already said you were right.
That James Biden was going to get pardoned. In fact, the only thing that I did was assume too much respect that Joe Biden would only pardon his brother that was clearly involved with influence peddling with his son. Instead, he pardoned his entire family.
Going back to 2014.
Yeah.
What a coincidence that date is right when the regime change in Ukraine happened. Amazing.
ATM opened. We Are the Real Heroes writes, on January 10th, I was driving to an interview for a job that I was trying unsuccessfully to convince myself was not the job of my dreams. I put on We're Not Wrong's Patreon episode about the global traffic scorecard on my podcast player, and it was a game changer. It helped me relax and ready to be the best version of myself. When I arrived, I unexpectedly faced a 7-person search committee armed with a 36-question packet, not counting follow-up questions, and I had to talk for 90 minutes about myself, which you all do on a weekly basis, but normal people do not. I apparently kicked the interview's ass down, up, down, and sideways. And yesterday I was offered the job at the top tier salary level. I start Monday. You're welcome.
Congratulations.
Listener.
I love that.
Congratulations. That is great news. Congratulations.
And if you want to get a better job, sign up for the Patreon.
I also now think that we named the show inappropriately because clearly it should be We're Not Normal.
That is, as our friend Brian Rushwood says, the hidden truth.
Yeah.
The hidden truth. Drones writes, this morning I read that the Trump administration issued a statement about the New Jersey drones saying that the FAA had authorized them. I was aware of what was going on. My first thought was, why couldn't the Biden administration have just said that at the time? Instead, they deferred and obfuscated.
I think this backs up my theory, if it's true, which is that they wanted dingleberries on the government funding law that never actually happened. And so it was all orchestrated to get people freaked out about drones so that they could get whatever the hell they were asking for, more permissions for state, local, and federal government to police these things. I think it was all a setup so that they could pressure Congress. Because the minute that deadline was kicked into March, we never saw another drone. We never heard about it. It was over.
I am totally fine with Jin's scenario, that this was well orchestrated dingleberries in order to get funding for things within that camp. B, incompetency. Or C, just good old fashioned shut the fuck up, America, we know better than you. I never thought it was aliens, though. I never thought it was aliens.
Yeah, and it felt like DARPA to me. It always felt like it's like, yeah.
I thought it was the Army pranking the Navy or vice versa. That's what I thought.
When is your application going in? Asked us about when we are going to be in the White House briefing room, which we talked about earlier, and I think we've already addressed.
That Heaton's going first.
Yeah, Heaton, are you going to apply?
I'll apply. Absolutely, I'll apply.
I've gotten a lot of like random people in my life asking whether or not I'm applying.
Yeah, I was surprised that people are texting me telling me that like I should go.
What would your question be?
This is the first I've heard of it. Apparently no one thought of me, but I'm still going to apply.
We thought of you.
I'm sure you question about zoning or ranked choice voting or something fucking useless, right?
No, I'll ask questions about Blake Lively.
Good plan.
And his singing career. Bad Deal writes, am I missing the news coverage of Trump's crap deal with Mexico and Canada? He replaced NAFTA in his first term. Did he make a bad deal with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement if the news is that he wants to hold them accountable? Why aren't they doing it for a signature achievement in his first term that is so garbage he's adding specific tariffs over the above agreement? That means he made a bad deal, right?
I don't know enough about the Trump deal to really be able to weigh in on it, but I liked NAFTA. I like free trade zones. I don't like tariffs for many of the reasons that we talked about earlier in this episode of how destructive they can be to an economy. The flip side is also true. Free trade is good for economies, comparative advantage, so on and so forth. So I don't know. I don't know the Trump deal. I would be surprised if it was significantly better than NAFTA.
Okay, let's just be honest about this. Donald Trump had nothing to do with renegotiating NAFTA. It was the trade representative. I don't think he knows what's in it. I think someone told him about the concept of tariffs like 6 months ago, and now he's obsessed with it. He wants to be McKinley. Like, I don't know. He's a weird dude. So it's like, it wasn't his deal. He doesn't know what's in it. He just found out about tariffs. I think it just is what it looks like. And I wouldn't think about it much more than that.
You know what? I hate to do this. Trump's been talking about tariffs since the 80s. It appears to be the only thing that he actually has domestic policy, or I shouldn't say chops, opinions on that have been unwavering. He's always been a protectionist. He's always been opposed to NAFTA free trade. So I think he might have actually meddled in that.
All right, I'll take that part back. But at the same time, he had 4 years as president and he wasn't this obsessed with tariffs. Like something is new here. I just think that he doesn't know what that deal is. I don't think he doesn't know. I think he doesn't know the details. I definitely know he doesn't respect the international systems that have been taken up. So if he's told like it's illegal for you to slap tariffs because, you know, the World Trade Organization or trade agreements, he's going to go fuck off. I'm going to do whatever I want. So it's like, yeah, that's a trade agreement that set the rules for a system he doesn't respect. I don't think we should read too much into it.
Ice bullets don't work, writes Mythbusters debunked it already. Heat from friction, gunpowder ignition, and air resistance melt the ice projectile. You'd have to figure out some crazy sabo round for an ice bullet to work.
When did we talk about
So if you need to take somebody out, the way to do it is to get them to enroll in a Civil War reenactment, but then put in a real bullet. Who's going to know?
Yeah.
Who's going to know? Then just go home.
We talked about it with the inauguration moving inside. Because I said it would have been the perfect crime if you killed him with an ice bullet, as they do in. So
it's one of those terroristy things that comes out of your mouth, and I just pretend I didn't hear.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
One of the many things that you immediately throw into. I prefer not to have heard it, and so I'll pretend I didn't.
Yeah, that didn't just happen on a show that I'm on. We're gonna pretend.
Like most of the end of the first and second topic. Finally, have some spine, writes Andrew's dislike of dictatorships has been well documented. However, does his dislike extend to Havelock Venenary, the patrician of Ankh-Morpork, or does he get a pass for being a bastion of government efficiency, asking for a friend?
No, I'm consistently anti-dictator, even in the Discworld realm of Terry Pratchett, peace be upon him.
So you know these names, but you don't know Blake Lively.
Terry Pratchett's a very famous British author. He accounted for 1% of all sales in the United Kingdom at the time of his death.
Mm-hmm. And he played against Superman in that one television show.
So my answer is yes.
That email made sense to you. Yes. Yeah. Of course. Terry Pratchett, very funny writer.
Okay. We're not wrong as a production
I
of
emailed
Doug.
him one time before he died. Sorry, continue. Sorry.
No. Go ahead. No. Did you send nudes?
Hey, Justin, can we mention what's on our shows?
Oh, shit. Yeah. Well, no, yeah. Usually that comes after I say Will Saddleberg's name.
Fuck, sorry.
Yeah. We're not wrong as a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. Hey, on PX3 this week, what do we have? Oh, Jen previewing Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. And then Michael Tracy is going to be on the Friday show. I wanted to have him on to talk about what he thinks is real and what is just noise in our current administration. And we literally just wound up talking about the 2024 election for an hour. So if you like election talk from people that were actually out there covering it, then you will like that conversation. Mr. Heaton.
I don't know what's going to be on the show this week, but we didn't talk about last week. So I will bring your attention to Charity Week on the Political Orphanage. I brought a different, interesting, wonderful charity or nonprofit on my program every day of last week, and it was heartwarming. The Monday episode was with Notes for Love. It's a wonderful group in Austin, Texas that runs a choir for people with dementia and Alzheimer's. I got to join their choir practice for a day and sing with them and talk to the founders about it. There's another group called Pause for Pause, which fosters dogs for people that need to go to rehab or a homeless shelter or mental health services. A place called Morgan's Wonderland, which is an amusement park in San Antonio, Texas, that is designed for everybody. So it's completely universally accessible. All of the rides are wheelchair accessible. Even if you have an oxygen machine, there's nothing that you can't go on. Everybody can go on everything. I spoke to 2 billionaires about how they approach philanthropy and how best to maximize impact. And finally, I talked to somebody who writes letters, correspondence, and visits death row inmates that are in prison. She tries to give them some company. So there's some just nice stuff for people if you want to go check out the Political Orphanage.
And Jen.
So on Inauguration Day, we released an episode about the presumptive immunity that the president now has because of the Supreme Court decision. And even though I know we had discussed that a few months back, there were obviously some concerns in Congress. And so there was a hearing about it where there were professors, there was a former attorney general, although that one was Michael Mukasey, who's George W. Bush's attorney general. So but it was interesting to hear the different perspectives on that ruling and what they know the effects are going to be and what they don't know the effects are going to be. And so I took the best parts of that hearing, the most informative parts, and made an episode out of it so that you don't have to listen to all 4 hours of it. And I found it really interesting. I don't know how satisfying it is, because I will tell you there's quite a few unknowns, but just hearing these professionals talk about what they don't know is fascinating in its own right. So yeah, I think if you have any questions, this is as close as you're going to get at this juncture to having answers about what the repercussions of that ruling is going to be.
There we go. And that'll wrap it up for us. Till next time, dear listeners and viewers, this is your old pal Justin Robert Young for Andrew Heaton and Jen Briney saying, we're not wrong.
Blake
travel
Lively is.
booker for Heaton's trip to Miami is. And Blake Shelton.